Well, I guess everything can't be puppy dogs and rainbows. We've got to have some bad news every once in a while. And the bad news here is the ridiculousness that is the Switch tax. So I've talked about Resident Evil games coming to the Switch recently on the podcast. And I was pretty excited about it because I've been looking forward to playing a good horror game. I haven't played one since I played Alien Isolation, and I'm looking forward to playing another one because I like to be scared. I don't like gross stuff, but I tolerate it so that I can be scared. And my excitement has decreased quite a bit because Capcom is going all in on the Switch tax. Now, what is the Switch tax? Well, for those of you that don't pay super close attention, the Switch tax is essentially the idea that games are a little more expensive on the Nintendo Switch. And you might be asking, well, why is that? And the reason for that is because of the cartridges. On other systems, Xbox and PlayStation, they use optical media. And optical media is, like the discs. On the Nintendo Switch, because it's a portable system, you don't want to have that spinning disc inside. It's likely to skip, it's going to cause damage to it, and it's going to be bad for everybody. So Nintendo, of course, did the right thing and went with cartridges. Now, with cartridges, the problem is to get the same amount of storage that you can get on optical media, the cartridges get, what's the word I'm looking for? Prohibitively expensive. Like they just keep getting more and more expensive. And because that price keeps going up, and these game developers or publishers, they want to save as much money as they can so that they are putting as much money in their pocket as they can, they pass the cost of those cartridges onto the consumer. And I understand why they would do that. That makes sense to me. They are basically trying to protect their bottom line. Now, I haven't seen anybody do this with, like let's say, what's a game that came out simultaneously on all three platforms? I can't think of one. I know that there is one, but there's another, like there's a game that came out recently and it came out on all three platforms on the same day, and it was $60 on all three platforms. And that makes a lot of sense because the gaming companies that make these video games, the publishers, they don't want to say, oh, it's $70 on the Switch and $60 on the other platforms. Yeah, it was probably Starlink. I think it was something else as well, though. It's because Starlink is weird because it's got the plastic stuff. So I don't expect publishers who are selling a $60 game to do the Switch tax. That's just something that they haven't done yet, and I don't think that they will. Because that's basically shooting themselves in the foot. And as the Switch install base gets bigger and bigger and bigger, making the people who decided that Switch was the platform that they wanted to play on be the most expensive platform for your game is going to be bad for your company in the long run. So I think a lot of people, or a lot of developers or publishers, want to avoid that. Okay, so we've kind of laid out the reasons why the Switch tax exists. That $10 price jump for most games that are under $60. When you go into the store and you look at the game on the shelf on the PS4, it's $10 cheaper than it is in the Switch section. And that's because of the cost of the cartridges. I understand why they do that. That's okay. What's not okay is what Capcom is doing. These let's use Resident Evil 4 as an example. Resident Evil 4 costs $20 on PlayStation and Xbox, and I don't know if it's on Steam or not, but I'm going to assume it's probably the same price on Steam. And on Switch, it's $30. And I know that there's people there who are listening and they're thinking, hang on a sec, Bill. You just said that it's okay because of the Switch tax because of the cartridges are more expensive. Here's the rub, though. This is where everything breaks down. Resident Evil 4 does not have a physical version. You cannot buy a physical version of Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo Switch. So why is it more expensive on the Switch? Now, a couple episodes ago, I talked extensively about, pricing for games that are remakes and things like that. And I said it's okay for the new Zelda game, which is coming out later on this year, to be $60 because they had to do so much work to remake that game. Why is it not okay for Resident Evil 4? Because Resident Evil 4 is just a port. The Zelda game that I'm talking about, Link's Awakening, that was announced at the February 13th Nintendo Direct, that was not a port. That is a complete remake from the ground up. They're starting from scratch and remaking that game. That's why it's okay for them to charge full price. For Resident Evil 4, they're not remaking the assets. They are basically taking something that they made in one engine and porting it over to another engine, or maybe I don't even know what engine they use. If they just use Unity, then it's a couple of checkboxes and then they go through and fix bugs. And if you're a developer and I'm wrong about this, feel free to let me know how wrong I am. But if they're just using Unity, it's not that much work to port it over. So why is it $10 more on the Nintendo Switch than it is on the other platforms? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then let's talk about Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0, you can buy a physical version of that game. I don't know why Resident Evil 0 gets a physical version and Resident Evil 4 doesn't, or Resident Evil 1 HD doesn't. But Resident Evil 0 gets a physical version, and you can actually buy a bundle for $60. All right, $60 that has Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1 HD. However, that physical copy, you're getting Resident Evil 0 on the cartridge and a download code. So honestly, it makes absolutely no sense for anybody to buy this game physically. And I know that in the past, I have been the person who says, go digital, go digital. I'm fine with going digital. I have very few physical games for the Nintendo Switch. I'm coming somewhere close to 200 games on my Switch. And of those games, I don't know, probably 15 of them are physical copies. The rest are all digital. So, I'm fine with going digital, but I can't imagine why it would be good for anybody to go physical with Resident Evil, because Resident Evil 0 is going to cost you $30. I'm sorry, $60, and then you get Resident Evil 1 as a download code. I just think that's lame. So Capcom, first off, if your games cost $20 on the PS4, then they should cost $20 on the Nintendo Switch, especially if there's no physical edition attached. Like, there's no reason for Resident Evil 4 to cost more money on the Switch than it does on other platforms, because it's not like we're paying for the cartridge. We're paying to download it. And it's just ridiculous that they are doing this.